And we are live. Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to She Built It Boss Lady Chronicles. I am Sharita Gaskins-Tillett. I am your host. And this is the show where we feature the amazing stories of women who are owning their power to transform their lives. These are real innovators in their fields, and I am super excited to bring their stories to you. And tonight is no different. Before we get started, I just want to give a minute for others to come on. If you are watching us live, please say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching us from. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. If you are watching the replay, #replay, still put your comments or questions in the chat, and I'm happy to get them to our guests to have them answered. Also, just a reminder, two reminders, I guess, it is still Cultivate Confidence Month for a few more days in the Boss Lady Dream Builders Facebook group. So if you need more confidence, join the Facebook group. I've been releasing a new exercise, confidence building exercise each day. And excuse me, and it's great. It's been going great, and we would love to have you. And then the second thing is that registration is still open for a weekend for me, the premier wellness experience for professional women, taking place in Grand Cayman, October 31st to November 3rd. And that resort, I'm telling you, it is amazingly beautiful, and I am so excited to go back. That was the only reason I was able to leave without crying, is I knew I would be back in a few weeks, and I knew I'd be coming back with you guys. So that made it okay to leave. But it is a beautiful, beautiful place, and I can't wait for us to go there and experience it together. So let's jump in. My guest tonight is none other than Dr. Mary Rensel. Dr. Mary is an associate professor of medicine at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine and director of pediatric multiple sclerosis and wellness at the Mellen Center of the Cleveland Clinic. She has graduated from the Medical College of Ohio and completed her neurology and neuroimmunology fellowship training at the Cleveland Clinic. She is boarded in neurology and integrative medicine and is a fellow of the American Academy of Neurology. Dr. Mary's work has focused on adult and pediatric multiple sclerosis, brain health, and integrative medicine. Her work in academic medicine often intersects with wellness, advocacy, innovation, coaching, and strategic initiatives. She is a Best Doctor of Cleveland since 2010 per the Cleveland Magazine. She is a national speaker in academia and a keynote in business settings, and even Good Morning America and the Moth stage. She is the owner of Brain Fresh, a neuroscience-based professional development support system, and is a Hello 7 trained business coach for women docs considering and or growing a business. Welcome, Dr. Mary.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be here. Hi,
Thank you
everybody
for
out
coming.
there. Yeah.
I'm going to take these glasses off. You guys know I
Okay.
only put it on for the bio.
No, you're good. Right.
Anyway,
You're
so
good.
Dr. Mary, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in medicine and in neurology in particular, I guess.
Okay. Well, I don't have anyone in my family in medicine. So when I wanted to do this, I found a neighbor. There was a neighbor that we had that we didn't, we knew a little bit, and he was an anesthesiologist. And I just thought doctors were doctors. So I was, and I went to my pediatrician and I was like, I want to know more about this. How do I find out more? And I went to college to become a physician's assistant because I was like, there's no way I'm going to school all that time that you need to go to for to be a doctor. Like, I don't want to go to school for 24 years, and train, and I'll be 100 years old when I get out. And then when I got to college, I had a friend that was in the pre-med track, and she showed me that, it's possible. And then when I started taking classes, it was so great because I was in a physician's assistant program. And then I started taking like a little bit of embryology, a little bit of anatomy, a little bit of physiology. And I was like, ooh, I love this stuff. I want more. I wanted more, but we had to keep moving on. And I was like, well, maybe I should change my major, so that was neat. And then neurology, I just knew in medical school, I loved everything about neurology. And I remember the day I read the word neuro-immunology, and my brain was just doing flips. And I was like, how do those words go together? I was just like, how are those related? And so that's been kind of my mission the rest of my life, is like, how do those things go together? Our our mind, our brain tissue, and our immune system. So that's been pretty much my purpose over the years, try to understand that.
Well, help us understand a little bit. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I get the excitement, but tell us more about, some of the things you've learned about the intersection of those fields.
Yes, they are highly intersected, So of course we all know when we're stressed, like at college or in, grad school or wherever you might be, if you're stressed, you get those colds more often. And if you're stressed, you can't really come up with the words as fast. And so we've seen, I'm sure we've all had that experience personally. When we're stressed, it's not our best time to think of, solutions. So I know personally, we probably all felt that. And then, there are now imaging studies of the brain that show when we're stressed, or like physicians that are burned out, there's functional MRI studies that show the brain lit up in different areas doing different activities. But when people are burned out or highly stressed, the part of the brain in the front that gives us our great ideas and connects us to some of our deep memories, it just doesn't work as well. So I think we all have probably had that experience. I don't know if people could put it in the chat. Yes, I agree. I've had that when I'm stressed, or if I'm, fighting with one of my I have 4 kids. So if I'm, let's just say, in a disagreement with one of my,
Yeah.
teenagers, then I physically feel differently. Right. So I personally have felt the difference in my thinking, in my problem solving, in my physical feelings when I'm stressed. And the literature and the science support that we're all connected, right? I think we're all old enough and brave enough to admit that our feelings come from our brain, not our heart, even though public press says, our feelings come from our heart. And so our feelings come from the same organ that help us come up with big ideas. So I think that's why I built Brain Fresh. I wanted to, help people navigate this organ between our ears and the workplace, because I think we just don't talk about that enough, the intersections like you're asked about.
Yeah. So why you alluded to Brain Fresh. Tell us about Brain Fresh and what you're hoping to accomplish. What is the mission of Brain Fresh? And then
Yeah,
what
the
do you
mission.
do
Yes, thank you. The mission of Brain Fresh is to free people with neuroscience strategies. And by that, I mean to free people to live fully in their gifts and their strengths. In the neuroscience world, we use this term called connectome. It's like how our brain is wired, and it makes certain things really easy for us, right? Like everybody has their own gifts and strengths, and things that are just so easy for us we could do in our sleep. And I want to help people learn strategies so that they can understand their brain better and maybe partner with it in the workday, so they can get their work done quicker and solve the big problems and go out and have fun and not think of work as the only thing that we do in our 24 hours.
So it's almost like getting control over our brain is what it sounds like.
I think it's number one, just wondering about it. Like none of us have all the answers. And believe it or not, I go to these lectures, the American Academy of Neurology, people who they've been studying the brain for 50 years. I remember this one lecture, and he was retiring, and he said, like, we don't have all the answers about the brain. Like there's still a lot to learn, but there's a lot that is known. And so I think that can help us navigate with some neuroscience strategies. Once we understand, how to get the brain ready for a great work day, a productive work day, and then how to align with what you're good at, and then how to take that show on the road, what does that day look like, that busy work day?
So what is the optimal strategy for getting your brain ready for a great work day? And what's a great work day? Let's start with that. But then,
Yeah, what is a
what,
great work day?
who defines that,
Yeah,
right? Define a great work day.
so those
And
go
then
in the
what's
same
the
sentence,
optimal
right?
strategy to get ready for it?
Yes. Yes. Well, I think, I say it a lot to, some of my patients and my, colleagues and people that I coach. The brain is more of a garden than a brick. And we have the ability to, to partner with it. And I think, a nice saying I heard the other day is like, if you watch over your brain, it will watch over you.
Hmm.
Because our brain, its role is to, take care of our whole body. Right. And so we talk a lot about psychological safety in the workplace and how important it is to be psychologically safe. But really the brain's role first and foremost is to take care of the body and manage the whole body. So we have to give it all of the tools it needs to do that. So generally that's sleep, nutrition, good friends, and some movement, and the very least, and fun. We talk a lot about fun and joy in Brain Fresh because that's a wonderful setting for the brain. It's not a non-judgment. We're connecting with other people. We usually move when we're having fun. So it checks a lot of boxes to get yourself ready for a busy day. So we can't leave these things to chance. They absolutely have to be in place. They're foundational. They need to be there for us to have productive, fulfilling day that means something to us. Because like we had said, our emotions also come from the brain. The emotions, when we learn how to navigate the emotions a little bit to stay in more positive emotions than negative emotions, a balance, it also helps us just feel more creative and be in better problem solving states so we can work and solve problems. Because I feel like when people are in their optimal state, the world will be a better place because we do have a lot of problems and challenges to solve. And I think if people are confused, they don't know where to start partnering their brain with their brain every day, then, we feel stuck. We feel like we don't know what the next step is to take.
So when you say partnering with your brain, you're talking about us being good to our brains, giving it the things that it needs nutritionally and, the rest that you talk about and, those kinds of things to help
Yes.
us help our brains to be optimized.
Yes. And then also to
So,
know that it can't only be on one setting because it is managing the whole body. So it does need to have breaks throughout a workday. It doesn't need a break when you get home. It needs a break all through the workday. We could think about them like little nano vacations for your brains throughout the day. Because we have different settings in our brain. We have like focus, get the work done setting, and we have what we call parasympathetic, like more rest and relax and chill kind of setting.
uh-huh.
So if we purposefully put these little nano vacation breaks, or nano breaks throughout our day, the recommendation is 5 to 10 minutes, 3 times a day, put ourselves in what we call parasympathetic or rest and relax mode. So that might even be just, looking at a picture of someone you love, or petting your furry dog or cat, or taking a walk or just looking out the window at nature, just a bit of a break.
Okay, so now you and I are both physicians. So let's talk about a busy physician day.
Yes.
You got a rack of patients. So 3 times a day, I'm supposed to stop and have these mini mental vacations. What does that look like in my day? Because I
Yeah.
can't go out for a walk, most likely, and I definitely can't pet a dog or a cat. So what does that look like in
It's
my
usually
day?
there's a dog in the hospital, those cute little dogs that come visit. Yeah. So, even, I mean, there's even been studies with by malpractice lawyers showing the importance of this. So even just your
Hmm.
hand on the doorknob as you enter a patient's room, just to say, may I be of service to this person. It
Uh-huh.
just kind of refocuses why we do what we do. It could be that simple that you
Okay.
just, because generally, it's, you're running and you're rushing and you haven't even gone to the bathroom yet and you're entering another room. But if we just take just a moment, and if you don't have a 5 to 10 minute break, you could take a touch just to center your thoughts. Just, may I be of service? May I not judge them? May I be there for whatever they need? May I be a resource? I like to think of myself as a bridge to people as for resources. I don't have all the answers, but I like to find the answers for folks. So I just think that in my head, I say, may I be a bridge to what they need?
Yeah. So it sounds like being mindful, really, because a lot of times we go through our day on autopilot and don't think a lot about I mean, we're just trying to get the work done. We're just grinding to get the work done, but not really thinking much about ourselves. And so I know one of the things that I used to do before surgery, especially while I was scrubbing, I would say a prayer for my hands to be instruments of health and healing and wellness, and that they be guided by God to take care of this patient. And that would help to center me in preparation for my surgery. So it sounds like you're talking about little things like that where we're just kind of slowing down just enough to connect with ourselves and to feel more human.
Right, exactly. That's beautiful, by the way. I love that you did that. That's gorgeous. Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that just gives you a moment to remember your why. There's Simon Sinek is now a global speaker, and he has written many books, and his argument goes back to a neurobiologic argument, is that we have a structure deep in our brain that stores some of our deep memories, and it's nonverbal. It's a nonverbal part of our brain. So we just know when things feel right, but we
Hmm.
can't you can't always find the word for why it feels right. And so the neurobiology of what's meaningful to us is just, you just get that feeling like, yeah, I just knew it was right. It's right for me. And so we have to know a little bit, just some brain wonder to know how we can, further help our patients, especially in our various roles. I think the other thing is there's really neat research showing us to, instructing us or guiding us on how to change our balance, our emotional balance throughout the day. So we will go from negative emotions to positive back and forth throughout the day. And the research, a lot of, researchers suggest if we can intentionally do things that push us over to 3-to-1 positive to negative. So a couple extra little things, just like you said you did before surgery, then we feel better. We feel like we had a good day. When you're asking, like, what is a good day? If we feel fulfilled, we feel like we connected. And it's really neat, the positive emotions, because it's not like happy-go-lucky, everything's perfect, like there's no problems in the world. It's more, I'm in awe of this. I appreciate this. It's honoring goodbyes. It's interesting steps, especially there's a book by Barb Erickson. So she is a positivity researcher. Her book is Positivity, a PhD researcher. And, she just has some very instructive strategies that can push us into that state where we are more creative problem solving, as opposed to, I think a lot of times we learn, just put your nose down, get your work done and get out, even if it takes 12 hours, don't look up, just get it done.
Right, but I think it sounds like taking those little breaks will help us to have some joy in the journey of getting the job done.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And
And
then,
find,
so
yeah.
can you give us some examples, a couple of examples of things that we might do to push our brains, to shift that balance into positivity versus negativity? Especially, let's consider a really challenging day when, people are angry with you, or you're working with a deadline, or, you've had a fight with your spouse, or whatever. When
Mhm.
it's really challenging to be positive, how do we shift that balance?
Yeah, well, I think first we acknowledge that we will have positive and negatives throughout the day. Like there will be good, quote unquote, good or bad, positive, negatives. That's a given. We know that will happen. This researcher suggested if we're intentional to push it over to positive. So one of them was honoring endings. That was a surprising one to me. So sometimes with my patients, I see them for so long. Maybe they're moving or something's happening, or, they have a new doctor because of their insurance change and we have to say goodbye. And there's times we have to just honor the ending, or if you're, I don't know, like my kids, they hit certain transitions and they're moving on and I don't see these friends as much or what have you. It just a little gratitude. Or now I even do it if I'm on vacation at Airbnb and I'm closing the door, I just say, thank you, house, for a lovely time. Just honor the end. It's just something's ending and I just appreciate it. And being in awe of something and just like, how did that work? How did that happen? Just kind of think of like someone said, just think of your plate of food. Like, where did all that come from? And who planted what? And how did it get to you? And who was the driver that drove it here? And, and who packaged it and who made that sandwich or what have you? It's just a little bit of wonder and awe and just the amount of people in our days. And the roles that they're doing. Like we had some gentlemen fixing a water leak at work the other day. I'm like so grateful for those guys.
Yeah.
So, just little things. It doesn't have to be anything very time consuming, thank goodness.
Yeah. And so, we talked about having brain rest, periods throughout the day. What about rest? How much rest do we need? Because, you started off saying that one of the things that we need to do, to be good to our brains, is to have enough rest. How much rest
Yes.
do these brains need?
Yes, yes. So it turns out that everyone, has different needs, as far as that goes. And typically, when you had a good night's sleep. I've heard some people say, like, if you're somewhere, like, let's say you're on vacation, you don't have an alarm, just see how many hours naturally that you sleep. That will probably tell you what you truly need. Like this morning, my alarm went off at whatever time, so it wasn't a natural wake up time. So it's, they say on average, most folks needs, 7 to 8 hours. I mean, the neat thing is so many active things happen when we're sleeping. There's been some really interesting, literature suggesting the brain gets almost kind of washed, and certain, negative proteins are kind of washed away, almost like a washer and dryer, during sleep to clean, quote unquote, the brain. We know it helps us with our physical recovery. It helps us with our emotional management. It helps us with our cognition. There's been really neat studies with folks in the military showing if you slept, even if they just cut back an hour or two, their physical abilities were less, and their cognitive testing were less. So it matters. A lot of times that's what we trim when we're busy. We just
Yes.
trim our sleep a little bit. And I wouldn't trim that if I'm going to trim anything. Just I would always make sleep a priority. It's super important.
Yeah. So tell us about Brain Fresh and what you're working on currently. I know you do some coaching in
Yes.
addition to your clinical work. Tell us some about that.
Yes. So I do coaching one-on-one and coaching in groups. Our group that we have now, that our coaching group is called WAG. So I have a little dog, Leo. So we think of him wagging. And so WAG is our Women Doc Accountability Group. And we get together for 8 weeks. And we, first of all, just kind of pause and say, like, where are we? What's working? And take a little time to dream and envision what could be. Where do we want to go? And we set really little goals that we can achieve each week. Even tonight, I'm going to do that with my young adults. We're going to do a financial one like this, so that because they want
Ah,
to learn some financial planning, So like, all right, let's do it. We
nice.
can do it. So little goals each week, in a year you can get pretty far. So it's been really nice. We keep the groups small. The leadership books suggest whenever you have a goal, you kind of assess where you are, where you want to get to, and then figure out the steps to get there. Setting a goal is fine, but you absolutely have to figure out the tactics to help you get there.
Right.
And then if
Yeah.
you surround
Yeah.
yourself with a growth team, that makes even more of a difference. So if you say your goal out loud, you're 70% more likely to achieve it. And then if you also have a growth team, so these are people who will be honest with you and will kindly, encourage you in your
Yeah.
success, Yeah, so that's fun. And then I do keynotes and I give lectures around the country, which I love because I love digging into the research and sharing it with people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a psychiatrist on a few weeks ago, and she actually talked about goal setting and having a goal and how humans are not happy. Like we can't truly be happy unless we're working towards something. I don't know if that's your experience. Can you speak to that?
Yes, that's so interesting because I just read a book. I'm gonna say her name really fast. Is Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky.
Okay.
Um, and I heard her speak. She came to the Cleveland Clinic and spoke, and she has a great book. I actually have it right here. The Myths of Happiness.
Okay.
That's how much I like it. I keep it close. And it's, and she talks about that happiness is not when you succeed at the goal, it's the journey. It's the
Yeah.
pursuit is what she talks about. So her book is all about what we think makes us happy and doesn't, and what does make us happy and surprises us. And that's her conclusion from all her years of research is that it's actually the pursuit of the goal, because while we're pursuing a goal, we're organized, we're focused. We a lot of times ask people how they did it, and so a lot of things happen in goal pursuit that bring us joy, which I thought was so interesting. So that's why we also do that in WAG, because what the heck, why not be happy and try to hit
Yeah,
it, try to
that
hit our
that
goals.
that really seems to be a common thread in the coaching space. And
Yeah.
then also we at my retreats at a weekend for me, we do a lot of goal setting. We do visioning and goal setting. But
Oh,
I never really made the connection between pursuing a goal and our happiness per
right.
se.
I was surprised by that. And then the other literature I was surprised is that when we're distracted, we're unhappy.
Hmm.
And I thought that's pretty dangerous these days because we have, I have 2 phones, how many computers, all these
Right.
ways for people to connect me at work. I counted it one time, 12 ways that people could get my attention at work between all my pagers, my phones, all the messaging, the ways
Yeah.
that people can message me, 12.
So
So
how in the world can
that's
you shut out the noise?
how can you just connect with my patient who's across from me, so
Right. Right.
it's very, it's being intentional about like what I look at, what is my priority at that moment. And I think, I've had to be more clear on that. And the more I learn about it, it makes sense, that distractions are unhappy. And I think that might explain a lot of what we're experiencing these days, that the phone, the people that have kind of designed various apps, and they know neurobiologically that we get stuck on pretty colors and things that are coming
Yes.
fast, and some unexpected little treats in the app or what have you, and so we stay on the app, and so it's just that distracted state is unhappy for us. So I think it's good to know, because I do think, to me, that would be like if your brain was just, or like your house, you just opened all the doors and windows and just let anyone in. Like, how would your day go if that it was like that? It wouldn't
Right.
even be safe.
That's the thing. That's the
So
thing. I
yeah,
think we don't do enough gatekeeping,
yes.
honestly.
Oh, I like that word. Yeah,
When you talk
yeah,
about your brain and its health,
yeah,
I think it's very important that we guard our brain. That we are very
yes.
judicious about what we expose ourselves to, be it social media or news media or
Hmm.
TV shows or whatever, but that we're very careful about what we allow ourselves to take in.
I
Because
love
you're
that.
right, it definitely has an impact. I saw a study not too long ago that was actually looking at social media, and it found that people who spend more time on social media are more depressed. They just feel kind of hopeless about their lives. And,
Hmm.
some of it's because you're looking at these fake lives that people have put on social
Right,
media. I
right,
always try to remind people I talk to, especially younger people, that you're seeing people's highlight reel and you're
right,
comparing that to your real life.
right,
Because, you can be anybody you want to be
hmm,
online. So, that's
right.
just not, it's
That's not
fake. It's
even
all
real.
fake. I mean, we all know about Photoshop and it's all fake.
Yeah.
So, so you can't compare your real experiences to that. But also one thing I read in that article though talked about how it doesn't allow our brains to rest. That people who spend, a certain amount of time on social media, even when they're sleeping, their brains are not resting.
Yes, yes. Yes, so that's the other thing with sleep, is that there's a term called sleep hygiene. It's how the patterns
Yes.
you have before you get to bed, and the patterns right when you wake up. All of that matters. It matters what you do. If you're looking at screens, you just kind of woke your brain up. You just told it it's day, so no screens for an hour before bed. And I personally have done that too. I've seen that when I've been on a screen late, I don't sleep as well either. So I'm sure people have experienced that, and it's worth a good night's sleep. It's really vital for our long-term well-being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it decreases our productivity, look, during the day. So one thing I try to do, I'm not as successful as often as I'd like to be. I can admit
Mhm,
that. But
mhm.
I try to not be on social media before noon because I find I'm so much more productive. I get so much more done if I just
Yes,
leave the phone in the other room before a certain time.
that's so smart. Yeah, I love that. And I have heard that when we wake up, we have very low glucose in the brain. So like a lot of people say they are in bed, they open their eyes and they go on their phone.
Yeah.
But we don't have the ability. The brain's not at its best state to filter things, like you said, to gatekeep. It's not at its best state. So it's not the best time to just open those doors and windows, let anybody in. Yeah, no, it's yeah, I love that. No social
Yeah.
media till noon. That's a good one.
But again, I said
Never.
I'm not as
No, it's
good at
perfect.
it as
Yeah,
I've done it some.
yeah,
I need to do it
and it
more,
works. Yeah,
I was going to say I've certainly seen the positive impact from it
I love
for
that. Yeah,
sure,
that's
for
great.
sure.
That's great.
So now, if I'm an employer and I'm looking to cultivate a happier workplace, what are some of the things that I could institute? Because you talk so much about bringing joy to your workday. What are some of
Yeah.
the things that can happen at an institutional or administrative kind of level to bring more joy to the workplace?
Hmm. Well, I think number one is to focus on it, because what gets, measured gets managed. And so you want to, try to look and see who is doing it well, and to go, kind of assess that team. If you have a team with a lot of joy or happiness, a lot of times it's because they prioritized it. Nothing happens just by chance, typically, right? And
Right.
the other
Yeah.
thing is to assess your culture. There's a lot of culture. That's I think of it like an iceberg. Below surface, it's hard to name. It's that
Hmm.
feeling again, that part of our brain that is nonverbal. We know when we can trust somebody, and to have trust in the team, and to actively be building trust within the team. Because if we don't feel that psychological safety, like we talked about, the brain's role is to manage the whole body. At work, we talk a lot about psychological safety. I wish we personally would also talk about all the physical needs of the body during a workday as well, because that's, kind
Mm,
of magical thinking that you don't have to go to the bathroom or eat
you're
or
right. You're
sit down
right.
periodically. That's
Yeah.
silly, because you're not going to get the best out of the team. So number one, I would always check the culture and just see what the level of belonging is in the team. I would start with that because that's very foundational. And then from there, you can build on it. And I think that, thinking of performance between a leader and their team, if you want to optimize performance, you almost think about it like an Olympic athlete trains. You think you really dissect your day. Where am I wasting time? Where, what is working, what is not working? And you think of all the levels of neuroscience that we have. So we have our cognitive abilities, our physical abilities. Are we feeding all of those areas that we need? Our emotional wellness, and then service. We have to also make sure that we are reminding the team of why we do what we do. We
Hmm.
have to find meaning. Are we influencing the community? Are we making it better for people coming up behind us? That is the sustainability of work. We want to make sure we're useful and that we have a purpose and that we're making a difference in our community. So as a leader, I would address all those four levels. So cognitive, physical, and this is all performance at work level. Cognitive is, there's things. Can you ask your team to solve a problem in a new way? Can you have a meeting in a new room? Can you just ask someone else to lead the meeting? Shake it up a little bit because it
Yeah.
gets people just thinking in a new perspective. And then there may be times that they institute those little pauses. Maybe they themselves, because I read about a leader that just kind of relaxed their face, relaxed their
Mm,
voice before they went
yeah.
into a meeting, because we're all emotionally contagious to each other, right? So whatever emotion that leader's bringing in is going to be contagious to the group. So I think there's a lot to be done. And number one always is belonging. And then those four levels of, performance and, enhancers for the workplace.
Yeah. Now, I do want to clarify psychological safety, just because
Mhm.
it's a term that we hear a lot, but I don't know that I've ever seen it defined. I think I have an understanding of what it is, but why don't you tell us
Mhm.
what it
Mhm.
is?
Well, I think if someone may say, and I can't really quote it, I'm sure we could find some resources for the audience, but someone say, do you feel like you could be yourself? Do you feel safe giving your answer or your ideas in a meeting at work? Do you feel like there'll be retribution for you discussing something in a meeting? Now, there's so many caveats to that because there's so many different workplace situations. Um, but we want, again, the brain isn't going to stay and it's not going to be at its best level if it doesn't feel safe in the room. So if you're in a room and only certain people talk in a meeting, you're not optimizing the good ideas and the solutions that the other people in the meeting may have. So I think it's something. It's we hear now as like kind of the flip side is belonging. Are
Mhm.
we speaking to everyone on the team? Do we give them time to give their 2 cents? Do we honor them? Are they always sitting in the back of the room? Just kind of that's where maybe a new eye or a new room or a new perspective to kind of what are
Mhm.
the habits of the team? It might
Yeah.
show like, do people feel like they are honored and valued? Everybody on the team.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I just it's just making me wonder what are some of the things maybe that people could do to make people feel, because I mean there's some people who are just going to be naturally quieter and
Right,
maybe won't contribute, but it doesn't mean that they don't have good ideas.
right.
Conversely, it could mean that they also don't feel part of the group, or they don't feel safe to say the things that are maybe on their minds, or maybe their mind
Mhm.
went blank because they were because they were
Right.
so stressed out
Well,
by the
right.
setting. But
Mhm.
it just makes me wonder. I mean, I know you talked about the shifting the location and asking different kinds of questions and other things, but are there some other kinds of things that could be done to to kind of draw out people who are like that?
Yeah. So there's different styles, right? And these days we hear a lot about neurodiversity, that people have different
Mm,
styles and preferences on how they, if there's a question, how much time they have to think about the answer that they're going to give. So our really strong introverts will want the questions ahead of time. So the one, sometimes it's very simple. Like the leader needs to share something that in order to build trust in the room, the leader needs to share a challenge and how they got through the challenge. So if we don't look fully human, leaders are just showing all parts of themselves. Now, they don't have to be completely vulnerable, but something that was a challenge in how they navigated that may just open that trust level. Or if the leader starts to serve, the people on the team, do something nice for some people on the team, that also neuroscience wise opens us up to others because we start to build trust. You could do just a simple check-in at the beginning of the meeting. What's one thing, like when I'm with new residents, we don't have a lot of time. I just ask them their favorite color. And, I just remember one guy, he's so unexpected. He said gold. I was like, gold? Gold. I'll never forget. He said gold. Or I said, like, what's something interesting you've eaten? Like something very unusual that you've eaten. And a lot of times it brings up, because we have different teams every week, and we have to really gel pretty quickly when we're on hospital teams or something. So sometimes I ask them, what's something, just unusual that you've eaten? Some people have eaten peacock or bear, or, like just a nice, like, where were you? So we have like a little story, and it's just fun. Then we get to know each other a little bit by just little questions, something good this weekend.
But I think that sounds like it goes back to that whole thing of being seen.
Yes.
That everybody wants to feel seen and appreciated. And I think just in asking about, their favorite color or something they've eaten lately, you see them. Like it gives you an opportunity to see them. It gives them an opportunity to share. Right. So I really like that. And I think the other thing that I seem to have gotten from this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that in order to really feel joy, you have to be in a space where you're your authentic self, where you're comfortable enough to be who you are in the fullness of you. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, 100%. And people around you that are supportive of who you are.
Yeah. Well, as always, Dr. Mary, I enjoy our conversations. I probably shared with you before that I was a psychology major in undergrad. So I especially love psychobio, so how the mind and the body kind of interact to, impact each other. Now, I do not share the whole neurology piece. Neurology was my first rotation in med school, and it made me clear that it was not the place for me.
100%. I feel the same way about OB-GYN. I was like, I'm never doing this.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their place. Everybody has their place. So, in the few minutes remaining, if there's if somebody's looking to work with you, if they want to join your accountability group or they want one-on-one coaching, how can they find you?
Yes, the best is to go to brainfresh.org, and then all the links are there. Or you can find me on YouTube. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, X. You can find me all over, Instagram. But brainfresh.org is the easiest way.
Now, the other thing that you did not have in your bio that I want to highlight is you also have a podcast.
That's true. I have a YouTube podcast. It's so fun because I've had you on it. So it's my joyful place, because then I get to meet people. I mostly interview women docs who have started a business, thought about a business, or, taken a turn in their career planning, just to inspire people who feel like there aren't opportunities or there aren't options for them. So thank you for coming on mine. Yes, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thank you guys for watching tonight. Show Dr. Mary some love in the comments. Thank her for sharing this information with us and helping us to bring more joy to our lives, more joy to our workplaces, and just, more joy just all the way around. So thank you again, Mary, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a great night.